folks, we got Morphy's Games of Chess continuing with game number 38, the Owen Morphy match continuing. Fifth match game held in August 1858. And as you noticed, that F7 pawn once again is missing. Morphy playing the black pieces, giving Owen pawn and move. Okay, so Owen once again starts with E4, Morphy answers E6, D4, and we got the French again. Owen not having much success, so Morphy's sticking with it. Now here, Owen had tried in the last couple of games the advanced variation, right? E5. But here, he tries something different. He's got to. He's been losing every game. So here we go. Bishop to D3. Tries to play it this way. And that sets a little trap. Let's just play this silly move over here so I could show it to you. Pawn takes pawn, right? And then you get the queen check over here, and already black's in trouble. If he tries to block, you could sack the bishop, and you win the rook over here. You win the exchange. You're up. Now you're up 2 pawns and the exchange. Forget about it. So that's the little trap that Owen sets. But we're not going to play A6. Come on, folks. Morphy takes away that H5 square for the queen. No check anymore by playing G6. Okay, and now, all right, Owen plays the knight out, the king knight. He's going to go for a quick castle this game. Morphy hitting that D pawn again. The D4 pawn, the Achilles heel, I guess you could call it, right? Owen protects it. Morphy adds more pressure. All right, but here we go. Owen castles. And Morphy puts more pressure over there, bringing the queen to B6. All right, here Owen trades on D5. They swap the pawns. And now with his, being that he castled early, he's going to utilize that open E-file. Rook to E1, giving the check. All right, no sweat. Morphy blocks it with his bishop. And here comes the knight swinging to G5. Now Owen's moving the same piece twice. Okay, but you'll see why. Now after Morphy develops the knight to F6, we got a sack on H7. Can you believe this? Here we got the first note of the game. This is the explanation of White's last move. He gets now a rook and 3 pawns for his knight and bishop. A good bargain. But subsequent errors of judgment betray him. All right, let's see how this goes. Morphy takes the knight. And now the bishop comes in, taking on G6 with check. Now if he moves, he just loses this outright. So what he does is he blocks it. So he at least could capture the light square bishop, right? He could retake something like this, right, with his king. But Owen doesn't take yet. He leaves the pin, and he decides to bring his other bishop into the game. Pinning the knight. Now there's a threat on the knight. Okay, because, again, the bishop is pinned to the king, and so's the rook. So the knight's defense, it doesn't have any defense. It's an illusion, folks. Those 2 pieces of black, the rook on F7 and the bishop on E7 are pinned. Those bishops really being utilized here by Owen. Okay, but we got, let's see. We got the bishop coming out. Okay, but Maroczy gives this as a better move. I don't know. It says Maroczy commends pawn takes pawn. And I guess if the queen takes, it diverts the queen off this B file because Morphy's aiming at that B2 pawn. And you'll see, especially now that the bishop's over here, Morphy wants to take, and there's a little pressure on the queen rook on A1. So like he'll put pressure. You'll see this will come into play down the road. So maybe that's why Maroczy's recommending to play this first. Maybe then you play this over here. All right. So anyway, Owen just goes right in for it. Develops the piece to G5. All right. So now there's pins, right? Pins all over the place. And Morphy, look at this, has a greater threat. His knight on F6 hanging, no sweat. He attacks the white queen. Now, Owen plays it to C2. But they're saying this, if F3, simply pull the bishop back, and it seems Everything, all bases are covered here now. Okay? Because if he does take this guy, right? This is the piece that's threatened. Has no protection, right? Because those other two, the rook and the bishop, are pinned. Well, now you win. Okay, you go piece for piece. You get the bishop, he gets your knight. Okay, so you're all right there. If he wants to take, no sweat. You got all the pieces covering. Even if he trades here, you even got the knight if you want, maybe. But okay, you take with the queen. I mean, you're not losing anything. You're not losing. What's he follow up with this? What's he gonna do? He's gonna defend b2. I don't know, folks. Nothing there. There's nothing there. Look at the engine. Black's up 2.5. He's winning 2.5. All right. So there's no danger in this. Taking the knight leads to nothing but a black advantage. Okay. So let's see. If he takes the bishop, well, now we move here. We take the bishop. So we're just trading light square bishops. And we're all good. The rook is no longer pinned on f7. And if he wants to take down here, no big deal. We got it all covered, folks. Everything's covered, right? We could go there, or we could take this way, take with the king. All right, and then once again, we're almost up 2 pawns. Not quite. Right, so there you go. Oh, look at that. The evaluation in exactly 2 pawns. If you look over, let's see, whose move is it? All right. If you look over here to the right, all right, minus 1.92. So black's up almost 2 pawns. All right. So anyway, black's ahead in that. Right? What actually, let's see. He's got an extra knight for the 3 pawns. All right. So he's got a piece for the 3 pawns. It's pretty even, but still a lot of game left. So black's doing fine, if anything. Well, basically say he's doing fine. So after this, there's really, there's nothing. There's nothing going on. No dangers for black. If f3 is played. All right, but Owen goes here. Owen plays the queen to c2. All right, now the king gets out of that pin. He wants to get his pieces out of the pin. So he moves the king over to f8. And now Owen grabs the exchange while he can, right? Because if he doesn't grab it now, he may never get it. All right, so he takes it, and black takes back. Now we got Owen hitting the bishop over here. Now he doesn't run back like Shredder's saying. He actually pulls the bishop to h5. And now Owen tries a little sneaky move here. He takes the knight. So now if Morphy was to take back this way, you get the queen swinging in here with check, and then lo and behold, what do you got? Right? You lose your bishop. You lose your bishop on h5. I guess he's throwing the in between move there. There you go. All right, so white would be winning there, right? He's let's see, black has, oh yeah, black's down the exchange plus 3 pawns. Oh, so he's really in the hole there. He's down plus 6. Well, it's plus 6 evaluation. All right, so get this. So on the bishop coming back, Owen tries it. He tries it. He takes, bishop takes f6, right? And what does Morphy do? Well, he doesn't take back the bishop yet. He plays the in-between move, which now you see why he moved the bishop back to h5. So he could come in here and take away this beautiful diagonal of the white queen. See this? In-between move, they give him an exclamation point. The effect of white's 15th move is now apparent. Okay, so now the queen slides over to e2. And now Morphy takes back his piece. And there you go. He's got, let's see. Let's look at the evaluation, right? He's got 2 bishops for the rook. but white also has 3 extra pawns, so this is some game. All right, so now those bishops are looking mighty fine. Look at it was the white bishops causing all those problems. Well, they're off the board, and now black's bishops take over. Look at this. You got the 2 of them shielding the king for now. And let's see, what do we got? Okay, we got the queen check coming down, supported by the rook. That's why he went to e2, and he gives the check on e6. King moves over. He's got to protect his dark square bishop. Only square, really. That makes sense. And here he comes. Another check. All right, the king goes in the corner. Now he comes to, the queen comes to d6. And we got, let's see, knight. What do we got? The bishop. Oh, no, the king coming back. He's attacking this bishop again. So he brings the king up to protect it. And at this point, remember, the black queen's aiming down on b2. He's threatening to take there, threatening the rook. And then you got trouble with the knight. Would have to move, but where would it move to? He'd lose the knight. Just to make an insignificant move. I don't know, just move the king. I mean, you could come down here and look at the trouble you get. You're attacking that rook. And to save the rook, you got to move the knight. Where could it go, right? He could gobble up the knight at this point. So anyway, that's the danger with the queen on the b file. So he develops the knight. He gets him out of there. There was no silly king move over there. He brings the knight to d2. And it says avoiding the draw to his cost, meaning they could just go back and forth like this over and over, right? They could just keep going back and forth. He would go here, he'd go attack the bishop again, and so on, right? And it'd be a 3 repetition, right? You end up having 3 repetitions. All right, so he brings out the knight. That's move 21, right? Okay. Morphy takes the pawn, and now Owen brings the bishop, trying to get him in the game. Knight f3. But look at this move by Morphy. Another exclamation point for Morphy. Knight to e5. Look at this. And you really, I mean, it's decisive. Here's the notes. Decisive. If queen takes, we first trade the knights, busting the pawns, because it's a check move. He's got to take back. Then we recapture the queen. All right, our pawns are busted up too in a way. But it says black's 2 bishops come into operation very powerfully. I mean, at this point, you got the 2 bishops for the rook. Okay, and that's usually better. The 2 bishops are better than the rook. And the only thing, though, is he's got the, he's down how many pawns, folks? If white retakes, I don't know, let's throw the engine on here. Let's just see. All right, he takes here, right? You can't really take here because then he throws a rook. You're going to lose the D pawn. You're going to lose the D pawn, right? See? So he doesn't take on D4 yet. He attacks the H3 pawn. Okay. So he's down he's down 3 pawns. So I mean, this is an interesting game here. We've got an interesting one. The H pawn is threatened now, and I don't see how white could protect it. And if he tries to come up and then bring a rook, he tries to bring the rook over to H1 to save his, because I mean we're gonna go after it, right? He can bring the rook over, see? But I notice if you set up a check. All right, now if he moves this way, the engine. All right, now the engine likes rook to D1. Likes that better. I don't get this move. It was looking at this, because then you just attack. You could play the rook here, and the H pawn's dead. There's no way to bring a rook, right? Because before you could bring the rook over here to defend it with the king and rook, right? I mean, that's the point of going to G2 opposed to H2. But once once you set this up, a discovered attack, you move your king and it's checked. Look, he's doing it now. He's deciding to move the king to h2. Look, can't you just... Now, how's he going to protect h3? It falls. So he moves his rook there, right? I don't know. He's just to move this way first. Right? What do you just take with check? He goes over. He brings the rook back. Well, anyway, you know, notice the white rook has a hard time with the bishop. See, he can't penetrate into these squares. The bishops are good like that. They cover, when you have both of them, they cover both the light and the dark. So they're pretty tough together when you got the bishop pair. This is an example. The bishop pair is strong. All right, so with an open board especially. Okay, so now, I don't know, so you win that pawn like that. It gives the evaluation, gives black with a little edge, pawn and a half or so. All right, let's go back. I saw the other move that after you set up your discovered check, how about this, the engine like that move. So you move the king, discovered check. All right, he goes here. I mean, heck, if he doesn't, he loses the h3 pawn, right? And now, all right, so now you get him. Decides to go up here now, right? You get check. He's attacking your light square bishop. What do you do? What do you do? Pull him back. All right, you pull him back here. Protect d5, I guess. And he plays this. Give the check. All right. He goes back. It's going to maybe swing him this way. Look at that. He'd have to give up a rook if he could do it. See that? He'd have to give up the exchange. See that, folks? So, okay, he's pulling the bishop back. I guess maybe a4. There you go. Block that bishop out. All right, now he hits it. Now he hits it. Okay. If he advances, then he could push this pawn to b4, right? And then get that b5 square free for his bishop. All right, but he's got other ideas over here. Look. All right, our rook's protected, so we can take... We're going to win a pawn over here, right? Oh, we get the check anyway. Look at this. Then he goes... He's only got one square, folks, unless he you know, blocks, but he doesn't want to do that. All right. Now we take back our rook. All right, we won a pawn over here. We have a passed pawn, folks. We have a passed pawn on b7. All right, and it's on the move. Do we want to do that yet? I guess so, right? Watch this now. There you go, bishop, dark square. Now you're going to see the power of the bishops. They're going to try to escort this pawn down. See this? Don't forget the king. He's an attacking piece in the end game. All right. Just making the moves fast. We're making them fast. All right, repositioning your bishop. All right, here comes the check. It's real tough for a rook to fight two bishops because they cover both squares, both colors, light and dark, right? So it's hard for the rook to find safety on the board. They're a real nuisance. And you can, you know, if the rook, it's not like you're playing a rook and rook end game, rook and pawn end game, and you could just swap rooks. You can't. In this scenario, the rook can't swap himself for both bishops on one move, right? He can't. It's impossible. So that would leave, you know, black up with a piece. He'd at least have one bishop left. So here we go. Why not push the pawn? All right, look at that. Centralized bishop. Very strong. King's getting over there. He knows he's in trouble. That pawn could come in. All right, he won't let him leave the bishop. He's got to protect f4, right? He's got to protect f4. The king's going to come around. Look at this. He's got no moves. Look at this. All right, he takes here. Gives the check. Why not king to g6? There you go. That's what I was thinking. All right. He goes by. He's got to protect that f4, folks. Now what? Now what does he do, right? There you go. We got it. All right, he's going for it. We're going to move bishop d, let's see, d2 or bishop d6. All right, d2. We'll park it in on c3, right? Here we go. All right, he's going to team up on that b pawn. Big deal. We still got the d pawn, folks. If he was to sack here, he's got no hope now. No hope. Right? Big deal. We can gain a tempo. Maybe we don't even need to move the bishop. If we wanted to, we could always use the bishop as a tempo if we needed to. Right? If it wasn't playing out right, but here we don't even need to use it. All right, see that, and it would be over. Now, that's if he sacks it over here. He can't sack it. This is what I'm saying. You can't. That rook can't take out both bishops. You can only take out one of them, and there you go, and you're left with the other one, and it's all you need. You got one pawn left, and that'll be the new queen. All right, so king up, and then what does he want to do? He's not going to take. All right, he goes here. Now we're going to win the d-pawn, folks. We're going to win his d-pawn. Isn't that amazing how the two bishops is a good example? I never realized how strong they actually are like this. They chewed up the position. They were down. Black was down 3 pawns, right? It was 6-3. And look at this. 1 rook against 2 bishops, right? From now on, you know, it depends on the game, the position, I guess, but the way this is developed, you can see the power of the 2 bishops, right, against a rook. All right, so there you go. You got 2 passed pawns, and they're both protected. I mean, I'm cracking up here. All right, so, you know, at this point, you see the evaluation, -7, almost -8. One of those is going to be a queen, my friend. All right. So now let's go all the way back. There's some examples, you know, how those bishops just chew up the position. Nice. They slice and dice. Now, it all kind of started with they relentless on this h3 pawn, right? There was no saving it there, no saving it. After rook over this way, setting up the discovered check, right? Doesn't matter what white does. Look, it all starts from this. All right. The key thing is there are no pass other than the h3 pawn. None of the, you know, there's no passed pawns. I guess you could say the f pawns. Once you drop that once the h3 pawn goes, the two isolanis on the f file are passed pawns, but black's got the bishops blocking them already, right? So anyway, that didn't, you know, doesn't seem to be any kind of danger for black. So anyway, all right, there you go. That's what could have happened, right? A little idea. You get a flavor. What could have happened. Now, Owen doesn't go in for it. He doesn't trade. He doesn't trade the queens. He retreats his queen to a3. So now, of course, Morphy doubles these pawns, busts up the king side. And now you got the queen still on the board. All right, so then Morphy takes over here on c3. All right. He's got to take with the pawn. You can't take this way. Obvious, right? There go the jokes, folks. All right. So anyway, now the rook comes over. All right. We saw the power of that move. And here we have, got to realize, too, the black queen's aiming at f2, the f2 pawn, right? So now this discovery, I don't know, like, okay, here comes a move for white. He goes here, right? Shredder likes that. You get the king out of the way. Now you set up your discover check. Once the light square bishop moves, the rook comes down on the... See, all right, he moves there. And then this is what we're talking about. The bishop's going to move with check now. Now, Shredder moved the queen to e3 because, let's say he didn't. That was the whole idea of this maneuver. Because the black queen's aiming down on the F pawn, right? On the F2 pawn. So let's say he doesn't go here. Let's say he doesn't come up to, let's say he makes a mistake. I don't know, a mouse slip, right? Say he goes here by mistake. Well, now you can see. Well, now he's on the light squares too. You could check him like this, but you could take over the F1 square. See this? So now with the rook check, the king's got to go over, right? The king's got to go over here, and now the queen could come diving in and taking the F pawn, threatening mate on G2. Oh, and this is a check. Okay, so that's why Shredder wasn't going in for it. All right, so it doesn't work. And then look at that, you force a trade of queens. Okay, wait a minute. What if I go back here? All right, he defends G2. There you go. Now it's white who's winning. Okay, all right. So there goes. That's where I would have blew the game. But I was just trying to show you, you're setting stuff up like this. That's what I'm seeing. The queen aiming at F2. You know, if she could take and then threaten the mate. But okay, white still can defend. At this point, though, on this rook maneuver, Owen doesn't play queen C1. He decides to block the queen's influence on F2 by putting the rook there, right? All right, now he moves his king. Morphy moves it to H8, and now he's threatening that light square bishop move with a discovered check. So Owen moves his king in the corner. He gets out of there. All right, now Morphy pushes the pawn. Owen takes, and here it is. Look at this. He's willing to give up the exchange because now Morphy takes back with the dark square bishop, and he's hitting both rooks, right? So no doubt about it. He's going to win. He can win a rook back if he wants. But what ends up happening? Let's see. Now Shredder's saying to move here, right? Let's just look at that. All right, you win it back. Obviously, if he takes here, you just trade, right? Or maybe you don't. I would think you trade, and you have the you trade, and you're up the bishop for 2 pawns, right? Which is a no-brainer. Yeah, you could go for the H3 pawn, right? So what? He goes there. Look, you trade down. Here you go. You trade down. You win this guy, right? It could be tricky. It could be tricky for black. But I think he's got enough here. I think the position of things should pay off. Now we could let's see. Let's okay, it's saying to push this guy. Push up further. Here he goes. Can't we attack the A pawn? Then he goes to B4. Alright, we attack. Let's see here. If we attack this guy, what if he goes here? Well, I guess we go pawn for pawn, right? And at this stage, okay. We'll gobble this guy up. This is a no-brainer. We won this one. Right, here he comes. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Watch this, folks. If he tries to push, right, Trade off those pawns, we get the check, the in-between check, and we win like this. Now, we don't want to take with the pawn. Now it's a draw, I think. Because he just goes, and I'll show you as an example, right? Let's see. Wait a minute now. Maybe there's a little more to it. I don't think so. He just blockades it over here now, right? Oh, boy, look at this. Look at that. Let me do that instant replay here. Wow, look at this. So, wait, if I did take this way, I thought he'd just blockade on A1, but he can't even get there. All right, they're saying to go this way, all right? And he's forced to A4, only move, right? He could go here. Maybe that's the move. All right, we take the initiative, right? He's forced here, only move. We control A5. And that's it. The pawn goes in. Look at this. All right. All right. Interesting to know. There are methods. But if the white king was to get to that corner, into the corner, let's say I made a mistake and I go here, right? Okay, now he's in the corner. This is what I know. Right? He goes in here. There's no way to get him out. If I go here, it's stalemate. The bishop controls A2. See that? So no matter what I do, same thing if I go here, bishop controls A2. It's stalemate. So let's say I go here, right? He just shuffles back and forth. I could never get him out because the bishop's the wrong color. See this, folks? All right. See, this would be stalemate. If I move the king away and then I do something like this, well, he still goes in. And he shuffles between A1 and B2. He just stays on those dark squares. If I come in, it's stalemate. If I go away, this is all he does all day long. Can't get him out of there. All right, so that's what I remember in my limited endgame knowledge, right? But look at that. You could actually still pull it out. Even if you take, now, to make it simple principles, you keep the pawn on the B file. Now there's no contest. Now you get him out of there, right? You could do something like, you could gain tempos with the bishop. All right, here we go. All right. Do we even need this guy? Let's see. Well, we'll play it safe, right? All right, good night. Goodbye. Even if he stays in front of the pawn, right? Look, we normally, we wouldn't even, if he tries to blockade, right? Let's say if he goes here would be the right move, right? If he goes there, now we can just check him, right? Or we could, let's say the bishop doesn't exist, right? Whose move is it here? He goes there. Oh, we just go right here and take the pawn walks in. So he'd be forced to go here. We go there. And whichever side, all right, he goes this way. If we go here, he comes up. We go in. Doesn't matter which way he goes. There we go. We get our queen, right? Okay. But anyway, let's go back. So the sack, okay. At this point, we're attacking E4. We could trade those pawns. There you go. So let's see what he goes. If he doesn't go that way, he comes back to defend it, right? Okay. So, okay, he goes there. Can we do that? Let's just do this. Look, okay. He moves this one. We could attack this one to freeze the E pawn. See, now he can't push this one, or he drops this one, the F pawn, right? So what does he do now? He goes back. All right. Check. Goes here. So we gain a tempo. Already check. Okay, here we go. Now, let's say we go here, right? We're attacking that F5 pawn. He moves it. There you go. Right in there. Blockade now, folks. See that? Now we got the blockade. Goodbye. Game over. Because the bishop, what's beautiful about a bishop in an end game, okay, is that they can blockade these two pawns, plus have influence down here still, right? They're a long-range piece. So now we take over the game now. King, it's just king and two pawns versus a king and pawn, right? So let's see, what do? We don't want to trade off the B pawn. Oh, we'll go for the pawns then. Here we go. Let's eat them up. He goes here. We could always play. Oh, let's see. Wait. If he goes here, he'll push F7. See? It doesn't matter because now on this, we have to defend our last hope. And he has to, I guess, like our last example, he has to get to that corner, right? So, I mean, if he goes here, we come up, we take the initiative, and we're going to walk right in and eat up his pawn. He could do nothing. We go here, right? We take it, he comes in, we go up, and there's nothing he can do. And the pawn walks in, right? So what if he goes here? I guess it's the same idea. Now he's got to either go here and it transposes, right? If he goes here, it transposes to what we just looked at. I don't know, you're gonna walk down here or over here. It makes no sense, right? What if he does this? What if he goes there? If I go here, he'll go to B4, but it still doesn't matter, right? I'm gonna come around anyway. Doesn't matter. Gonna eat him up. You could take a tempo with the bishop, or you could just go like this. There you go. He's got to abandon his pawn, and you eat him up, right? Okay. Let me see something. Hold on. I go there. Okay. Yeah, he's got it. What could he do? If he goes here, I eat it up. He's got to move, right? Whatever he does. And the pawn goes in. All right. All right, there you go. So some ideas, right? It could go a little different, but we get the basic ideas here. You attack. Here's an example. You attack the front pawn, so he can't move this one. I mean, he can move with check. That's what he did, right? He checked me. All right, so I went over here to defend this guy. This one is hanging still. All right, so if he goes here, right? Well, now he's outside the square of the pawn. Right, here he goes. He's going to go there. And we could blockade him, and it transposes, I guess, right? In a way. There you go. Same thing. Well, he doesn't know what to do. Eat one up, goes here, eat the other one up. You know, he can't abandon the B pawn. He goes right in. So he'd have to, I don't know, stay over here. Goes there. Gotta watch this, the stalemate. This is stalemate, folks. He can't go. He can't go here. He can't go to A2 because of the bishop. All right, so we take a tempo, right? Always watch out for those. So now, I mean, whatever he does, if he goes here, blockades, we check. Goes there, mate. Right, and if he does, let's see. See, it's nice with a bishop. You could always burn a tempo. Let's say if he goes in the corner, it's the same thing, right? You check, force there, and there it is, mate. Same thing. All right, so let's get back to the game all the way. All this, right? Good stuff to know, though. See how you get the blockade, just to touch on it. Once those pawns go to the dark squares, that's it. Your light square bishop can blockade him. Okay? All right, so anyway, what do we do at this point? Let's see. We were talking about the rook over here, right? This rook, the A rook moves here. That was Shredder's move. All right, so we went into it from that point. That's if the queen takes, right? We might as well get rid of the queens. Pawn takes, and you could just go right like this, right? Okay, if he goes up, then you trade the rooks off, and you grab your pawn there. See, it's pretty much the same thing. Okay, so let's go back to the game. Let me see. After Morphy takes on D4 with the bishop, let's see where we are. That's move 28, right? All right, 28. Bishop takes pawn. All right. Owen moves the queen rook to E1. Okay, Morphy grabs the exchange. He grabs the exchange, and Owen takes back with the rook. And here comes the check. And you can see what's being set up. The king comes up here, right? And now the bishop he just puts the bishop on E4. And what ends up happening, if he takes, I mean, you see that what happens is it's just mate, queen here, mate. See, the bishop just had to get off the G file, so the influence of the rook could be felt. All right, so he goes right here, right? And now after that, it delete the queen checks, right? Let's see, where are we? There you go. Queen to C3 check. All right, he blocks with the rook. And now they're saying to bring the queen down. But queen down, you just trade. You take here, right? You're threatening rook to G2. Winning the F pawn, right? If I'm not mistaken. There you go here, right? You could win the F pawn, right? Oh, well, wait a minute. If I do that, he comes to G3, attacking both pieces. See that? Let's see. Goes there. Oh, okay. I got time to attack his rook. You gotta watch those little bloopers, you know? You can get into trouble sometimes. You get a little too sure of yourself. All right, so now it's easier. Look, we won it before. The other end game was harder. This is no problem for black. All right, so let's go back anyway, right? So that's if he blocks with the queen. Owen blocked with the rook. Okay, he blocks with the rook. And now the queen comes back. Now he's attacking F2, which would lead to mate, right? Queen check, and then mate. So here we go. Owen blocks with his rook on E3 again. So now they could go back and forth, but here we got Morphy with, Owen wouldn't mind a repetition, just keep doing this. He wouldn't mind that, but Morphy's got a better move here, and Shredder sees it. The check on d6. Queen to d6 check. The King's only got h1. I mean, if he blocks, does that, there's no solution there, right? So he goes back. And now, look at this. This is why the bishop went to e4, folks. You see, the master looks many moves ahead. Morphy anticipated all this, and look, this is why the bishop went to e4, folks. Now he can take, right? Because if he comes down here, it's the same old song and dance, right? He blocks with the rook, okay? No good. So what he does is he gives the check, and the white king's got nowhere to go, so it diverts the rook to capture the bishop on f3. Only move, right? Now the rook can't go down anymore to block. Queen check. I mean, this just prolongs it. Owen just came up here, right? Only square. And there it was. Queen to g1 mate. And Morphy finishes Owen off here. And in what game was this? It was 38. Game 38 now. The fifth match game. I believe Morphy won 4 games, and there was 1 draw so far. So, I mean, even though Owen's got a pawn and move advantage here, he can't seem to get, the jump on Morphy. So we're going to have this, continue this. It's going to continue to game number 39. All right, we'll see. Maybe Owen could get something going. I don't know. Morphy's on fire, folks. This was some game. Beautiful stuff, right? Okay, so we'll catch you next time on Morphy's Games of Chess.